You have probably seen the terrifying headlines claiming artificial intelligence is stealing everyone's jobs. Well, grab a cup of tea, because I am about to reveal a rather spectacular corporate fib. Executives are gleefully firing thousands of loyal workers, pointing fingers at non-existent robot replacements. It turns out, blaming a shiny algorithm is vastly easier than admitting they absolutely ruined their budgets. Back in the bizarre pandemic days of 2020, tech giants hired like there was no tomorrow. They doubled their workforce, assuming we would never leave our living rooms. Then the world reopened, interest rates spiked, and reality knocked on the door. Suddenly, bloated companies realized they had far too many people and needed a clever excuse for mass panic. Enter artificial intelligence, the ultimate corporate scapegoat. Wall Street absolutely loves anything stamped with those two magic letters, so executives essentially discovered a miraculous loophole for boosting their own bonuses. It is a brilliant trick called tech washing. Instead of admitting poor management, they pretend an omniscient computer is taking over. Investors cheer, stock prices soar, and the boss profits. Consider the massive layoffs happening across major cloud computing firms. They loudly blame artificial intelligence for these unfortunate redundancies. Yet, quietly, they request thousands of foreign work visas each year. If algorithms are genuinely coding everything from scratch today, why on earth does Amazon suddenly need 10,000 new visas for developers? The mathematics simply do not add up here. Salesforce essentially did the exact same cheeky maneuver this year. They dramatically laid off thousands while simultaneously bringing in massive numbers of cheaper offshore workers to fill the empty desks. This is basically a modern iteration of classic corporate outsourcing. They fire an expensive domestic software engineer and hire 10 cheaper alternatives overseas, blaming the entire switch on a chatbot. There is another hilarious secret about this whole supposed technological revolution happening right now. A staggering majority of these fancy generative projects are actually failing to produce meaningful financial returns. Chief executives are standing in boardrooms, sweating profusely, realizing their magical tools cannot even draft proper emails without hallucinating wild inaccuracies. Naturally, they double down and fire more staff anyway. Take the infamous case of an artificial intelligence startup that claimed to automate mobile app development. Investors threw billions of dollars at this supposedly brilliant piece of modern software engineering. It turns out, their highly advanced robotic brain was actually just 700 underpaid human engineers sitting in an overseas office, furiously typing code behind a clever digital smokescreen. This spectacular deception perfectly highlights the broader corporate strategy at play. It is significantly cheaper to outsource quietly while loudly bragging about modern software innovation to gullible Wall Street investors. Furthermore, companies are discovering that replacing customer service teams with chatbots is a disaster. Customers absolutely despise arguing with stubborn robots that possess zero empathy or basic problem-solving skills. Experts predict that half of the companies firing support staff today will inevitably rehire them within 3 years. The machines simply cannot handle complex nuance or deeply frustrated human clients. And then we have the software developers themselves. When forced to use these tools, many programmers report that their work actually takes 20% longer to complete accurately every day. They spend countless hours cleaning up bizarre mistakes generated by the supposedly genius algorithms. One developer even had his entire hard drive accidentally deleted by an overly enthusiastic digital assistant. So if the technology frequently breaks, alienates customers, and deletes files, why are the layoffs continuing so aggressively? The answer involves a desperate need for massive piles of liquid cash. Building artificial intelligence infrastructure is comically expensive. Tech titans are burning through hundreds of billions of dollars just to construct gargantuan data centers across the globe this very fiscal year. To fund these astronomical investments, they must slash costs elsewhere. Instead of cutting executive bonuses, they decided it would be much funnier to simply fire the middle management workforce instead. They are betting their entire corporate future on artificial general intelligence. This mythical technology does not even exist yet, but the fear of missing out is driving them absolutely mad. It is a gigantic casino game, and employees are the poker chips. Firms are discarding traditional web developers to hoard specialized machine learning engineers at exorbitant base salary rates today. This drastic shift creates a terrifying problem for the future workforce. By eliminating entry-level positions today, companies are destroying the vital training ground for tomorrow's senior tech industry experts. You cannot magically spawn a senior developer from thin air. Humans learn by working alongside seasoned professionals, making mistakes, and gradually tackling slightly more complex problems over several long years. If algorithms absorb all the junior tasks, the vital expert bond is shattered. In 5 years, these greedy corporations will be panicking over a massive shortage of competent senior staff. We already see this happening in robotic surgery. Junior surgeons are sidelined, watching machines operate instead of practicing. One must wonder who will operate when the current experts finally retire. The obsession with short-term efficiency blinds executives to long-term collapse. They would rather save a few dollars today than ensure their company actually survives the next tumultuous decade. There is also a hidden tax incentive driving this madness. Firms receive massive tax breaks for moving operations overseas, effectively rewarding them for laying off domestic workers without any mercy. When you combine tax loopholes with cheap offshore labor, the financial temptation is irresistible. Blaming the resulting job losses on sophisticated chatbots is just the perfect public relations cover story. Meanwhile, venture capitalists who have never worked a physical job boldly declare that all factory workers will be obsolete soon. It is fear-mongering designed to inflate their stock portfolios. They want you to believe that a flawless robotic supply chain is imminent. Yet if you have ever argued with an automated checkout machine, you know this is pure fiction. The reality is that humans are quietly fixing the constant errors these programs generate. A massive shadow workforce spends its days babysitting confused algorithms that cannot understand basic human context. Instead of eliminating work, this technology frequently just changes the tasks. Workers who once wrote original content are now reduced to correcting bland, repetitive paragraphs churned out by unfeeling machines. Economic data proves that companies conducting mass layoffs often perform worse in the long run. Losing experienced staff destroys institutional knowledge that took decades to build up inside the company. Replacing that lost talent later is horrendously expensive. Hiring and training new employees costs a fortune, completely wiping out any short-term savings achieved by the initial hasty staff reductions. So when executives announce these sweeping cuts, they are not playing brilliant strategy games. They are just panicking to please shareholders before the next quarterly earnings call inevitably rolls around. Young people graduating today are terrified that their chosen careers will vanish overnight. The media amplifies this dread, publishing endless articles about the impending doom of all white-collar professions. But the underlying numbers tell a vastly different story. Job postings for software development actually rebounded massively after the initial scare, vastly outpacing the broader economic employment growth rate recently. The truth is that no one can predict the labor market 15 years out. You just have to adapt, learn continuously, and refuse to let corporate propaganda dictate your choices. Think of it like the transition from desktop software to the internet. Jobs did not disappear entirely, they simply evolved into new forms that required slightly different technical skill sets. If you can master the art of learning new skills rapidly, you will always remain valuable. The next great technological wave has not even been properly invented by engineers yet. We must stop viewing this as a battle between humans and omnipotent machines. It is actually a clash between greedy executives and the truth about their own financial mismanagement blunders. Every time a chief executive blames an algorithm for ruining livelihoods, check their stock price. You will invariably find a convenient little bump that pads their personal retirement fund nicely. They are playing a dangerous game with the economy. By hollowing out the middle class for short-term gains, they undermine the very consumers who actually purchase their overpriced products. Perhaps one day, investors will finally realize that firing your best talent is a terrible growth strategy. Until then, the smoke and mirrors show will undoubtedly continue without any interruption. What remains fascinating is how gullible the broader public has been. We eagerly consume science fiction fantasies instead of scrutinizing the boring reality of corporate tax avoidance and visa exploitation. It is much more exciting to imagine a Terminator stealing your desk than an accountant quietly moving your entire department to a cheaper continent to save some petty cash today. But once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. The narrative of inevitable technological unemployment is a carefully constructed illusion designed to keep workers frightened and highly compliant always. So the next time you read about a massive layoff attributed to innovation, laugh out loud. You now know they are simply covering up their own disastrous pandemic hiring mistakes. If you want to survive this bizarre corporate theater, focus on building deep expertise, genuine empathy, and sound judgment. Those are traits a script cannot mimic or replace quite yet. Remember that enormous project failure rate. That means almost every single initiative these companies are launching will eventually crash and burn in spectacular fashion over the coming few years ahead. When the dust settles, they will be begging competent humans to return and fix the absolute mess their cheap digital toys created in the first place. It is highly inevitable. Do not let the headlines steal your confidence. The sky is not falling, but the corporate facade is certainly cracking wide open for everyone with open eyes to clearly see. Keep sharpening your skills and staying curious. The future belongs to those who understand the game being played behind closed doors and refuse to be a helpless little pawn today. Eventually, Wall Street will demand actual profits instead of just trendy buzzwords. When that reckoning arrives, the hollow promises of endless automation will collapse under their own absurd massive weight. We are witnessing a massive redistribution of wealth disguised as a technological miracle. It is brilliant, sinister, and utterly transparent once you look past the sleek marketing presentations and logos. So grab some popcorn and watch the executives squirm as their expensive investments fail to replace the nuanced brilliance of a genuinely experienced human being doing their actual daily job. The artificial intelligence layoff narrative is nothing more than a very big lie. Stay smart, stay adaptable, and never underestimate the sheer predictability of standard historical corporate greed everywhere today.
If you find this video interesting, push like and subscribe buttons. Take care.